Welcome back to Estonian Unlocked. In today's video, we will have an introduction to cases. So here we have all of the pronouns that we've talked about so far. And if you don't know what these are, or if you don't recognize these, be sure to go back and check out my other videos because these videos are meant to build sequentially on each other. And so this will make a lot more sense in the context of my other videos. That being said, before we dive into cases in Estonian, we have to understand this concept in English. And this will help you realize that you really know this concept. You really understand cases. You've been doing this your whole life, but you have to be able to translate this from English into Estonian. So we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about the English before we dive into Estonian, and then I promise it will make sense. So to start this out, let's just take a look at these sentences here. This first sentence is, I love her. And this sentence makes absolute sense, no problems with it. Next up, I love she. Hold on, there's a problem here. It should say her. I love her, I love she. She does not really make sense, or it should be her. Okay, let's look at these other ones. Me, love you. He loves my. He loves my what? My YouTube videos? He loves me. You're trying to say he loves me. That makes sense. So if we look at these words, some of these sentences are kind of off. And intuitively, this makes sense to you because you speak English. So you can recognize which one's right and which one kind of sounds like it's a little kid talking or someone who's mixing up their pronouns here. So I want you to take a look at these first two sentences and realize what's wrong. I love her and I love she. Why is she wrong? Well, it's wrong because it's just a different form of the word her, but it's the wrong form because it doesn't make sense in the sentence. Why does that intuitively make sense to you? Well, this is the bare basics example that we have in English of cases, and it's one of the few that we have. But all cases really are just different forms of one word. So she is a different form of the word her and vice versa. Same with I and me and my are all different forms of the same word, but they have different jobs in the sentence. And when I was first learning Estonian and I was trying to wrap my head around this concept of cases, I was struggling to figure out what this was talking about. And the definition that worked for me that I want to share with you is that cases are just different forms of one word. And the form the word is in tells you its job in the sentence. The form, or in other words, the case that a word is in, just tells you its job in the sentence. In these sentences, there are three basic jobs that these words are doing, or cases that these words are in. And in English, I like to talk about them as the subject, possessive form, and then the object form. Now, the subject is just the person or thing that is doing the verb. It is the word that we conjugate the verb to. Possessive obviously just shows possession. And then the object is the person or thing receiving the action of the verb. So the subject and the object are both in relation to the verb, just the subject is doing the verb and the object is receiving the action of the verb. Now this makes sense as we look at this first sentence. We see I love her. I is the subject. Love is the verb. And her is the object of the sentence, right? So love is what we are conjugating to I love, not I loves, I love. And then her is the thing that is being loved. I love her. I is the subject, her is the object. Now, I promise we are almost out of English class and we're going to move into the Estonian in just a second, but we really need to understand this concept that in English, our sentence order is almost always just like this. Subject with a verb conjugated to that subject, and then the object that is receiving the action of that verb. In Estonian, this is also the main pattern that is used. So to review, this is a list of all of the English pronouns that we've learned so far in their three forms, the subject form, the possessive form, and then their object form. Now we can finally move on to the Estonian and look at these concepts. So subject form in Estonian is just a case and it's called the nominative case. Genitive case is the name for the possessive form, and partitive case is the name for the object form. If you look down here at these two trees, then you can see we have the long versions of these words and the shortened versions of these words, but we have each of our pronouns in the three different cases that we're talking about. One of your main takeaways from this video should be these lists. You need to have these lists memorized in order to properly speak Estonian. Now we can use these words to make sentences in Estonian just like we did in English. So if we come down here, we have this list of verbs, and let's use these to make sentences with our pronouns. Now, if I want to say, going back to our example, I love her, we could say mina. And then we take our verb, armastama, and we chop off the MA and add the N, so we conjugate it, right? And then if we're going based off of our knowledge, we would just say tema, I love her. But this was wrong because in English, this would translate as I love she. And that doesn't sound right to us. The same way it doesn't sound right to us, it won't sound right to an Estonian, because tema is the wrong form of the word that we want to say. We want to say mina armastan teda and put it into the partitive case, which will then change the meaning to I love her. And that's the correct form of mina armastan teda. Now it's your turn. If you go to this word list over here, and you take these and you use your conjugations to create these sentences of subject, verb, object. Use the Estonian pronouns and these verbs to create a bunch of sentences and just play with this concept until you really understand it. Make sentences like, I will help them, or they will remember me, and figure out how to use these words in Estonian. Take some time to do these examples until you really understand it. Post it down in the comments if you have any questions. Now, as we wrap up this video, there are a couple of things I just want to say about cases, and that is, first of all, that these are not all of the cases in Estonian. There are 14 cases in Estonian in both the singular and the plural. There's a lot of cases to learn. The good news is that really you only need to learn 4 cases in order to be able to use all of the cases, and that is the nominative singular, the genitive singular, partitive singular, and the partitive plural. So as you're learning words, if you have access to this, if you know how to look it up already, make sure you learn those 4 forms: nominative, genitive, partitive, plural. The other thing that I want to say about cases is that this is not the full list of what these cases do, right? So genitive shows possession, but it also has a variety of other jobs that it can play in a sentence. And so we're going to continue to add to these lists. Don't think that this is the full list of what these cases do. We'll continue to add to these, and we'll make separate videos for each of these different cases so that you can really understand what's going on with each of these cases. And there you have it. That is our introduction to cases. I hope you learned something. If you found this video useful, please give it a like and subscribe to my channel for more videos just like this. And I hope to see you next time.